Christmas was close. New Year's Day was. Christmas is the only day.
When you get inside the entrance, it's blowing out a gale. When it's below that, it's inhaling. And the colder it gets, the stronger air is being pulled into the cave. That's why the ancient Greeks name of DuPont. You're absolutely right. E.I. DuPont. And now you know how he got this company started, making black gunpowder. After his workers add the charcoal and sulfur to it, voila, we got gunpowder. And folks, they're making a lot of money from this cave. I mean, a lot of money. Until the war came to an end. Immediately, the demand went down. We're able to import our saltpeter again from overseas. So this operation basically, well, it just petered out. And really created quite a depression in this part of Kentucky until the 1820s. That's when the owner of this cave said, you know what? We're going to find another way to make money from this big old hole in the ground. People had been coming down here to find out about the mummies that had been found in the area. The most famous mummy at the time was known as Fawn Hoof. She was found somewhere around autumn of 1811. We don't know exactly when she was found. A gentleman by the name of Nahum Ward took her out on tour around the country. And that's what made Mammoth Cave become famous. Not the saltpeter mining, but the mummies that were found here. People's coming down here to find out about this, ask about this. The owners figured surely they'll be willing to get up just off a little bit of money to walk down into a big old hole in the ground. And as best we can figure out, this has now been going on since 1816. So next year we'll be celebrating our 200th anniversary of guided tours here in Mammoth Cave, making it one of the very oldest visitor attractions within the United States. There's a lot of cave to be found. And some of that could be making connections to existing caves. Not just necessarily finding new caves, but finding connections to existing caves. I mean, just outside the park, there's about the 9th longest cave system in the world. Thank you, Alicia. Yes, and that cave is called Fisher Ridge Cave. And I think they're about up to 110 miles on it, only about 300 feet of connecting it to the Mammoth Cave system. So if and when that connection is made, we'll go from 400 miles to over 500 miles, still with no end in sight. There's a famous caver by the name of Roger Bruckner who swears up and down when the end of this cave is found, it's going to be 1,000 miles long. And he may be right, and he may be wrong, but it's going to take an incredibly long time to find out if it's true. Folks, there's no right answer to this. But behind me, does this remind anybody of anything? Well, someone said it. A coffin. Absolutely. It reminded someone once upon a time of a steamboat. It was known as Steamboat Rock. But by the mid-1800s, it had pretty much been known as the Giant's Coffin. You can see the lid on that coffin. Different reasons people have come to this cave. Trying to cure tuberculosis. There's a place in the cave at Bridal Altar that they see on the Star Chamber tour where people used to get married in the cave. But the biggest reason people have come into this cave is what we're doing. Just to see the cave, to check it out. And when those first American Indians started coming in 5,000 years ago, that's exactly why they came down here.
right. It's not a rock. It's a boulder.
It's not a boulder. It's a rock. It's pioneers used to ride these things for days.
Water bottle compared to your person. You got to smell curry all the way up. The cool air would be sucked out of the cave so strong, it would blow my hat off my head when we walked in right there. And it would dry out this section of cave. And if this section dried out, you wouldn't have the formations. All right? And this is the temperature year-round, about 55 degrees, and it's about 80% humidity. Can y'all feel the moisture in the air? If some of you touch the handrails and it's all wet, kind of like you take a Coca-Cola can out of the refrigerator, you know, on a hot day, and a few minutes later it's just soaking wet. That's the same way. And what we're going to start seeing is all these wonderful formations. And I'll tell you a little bit later on how they're formed. But what we'll do is we'll walk through them, all right, and go to another place that doesn't have them. We'll stop there, and we'll turn around and take our trip down into the drapery room, and then we'll slowly make our way back this way. So we'll walk through them first, kind of rapidly, and then on the way back through, you know, you can stop, take pictures.
Wait, Daddy, that was like the bottom of the video.
We seem to have lost all of
He'll catch up. I think he's probably still having to know something. I don't know if Ruby can make it through there.
Just a big, nice ceiling, kind of arch shape, brownish gray walls, and lots and lots and lots and lots of limestone rock. However, imagine this 5 times wider and 60 foot tall. That's how it got the name Mammoth Cave. Has these big dry passageways like that. And goes on for miles like that. What we loaded on the bus, You walk down the hill, go in the historic entrance, and you can walk for 3 miles and never get in a spot smaller than what 7 or 8 people couldn't stretch their arms across to not touch wall to wall. And that's how it got the name Mammoth. Now what we just walked through is an oddity for Mammoth Cave. And the reason why, we walked back into the hill far enough now that all the rock we see is limestone, but there's another rock between the limestone and the dirt called sandstone. And it's a protective roof over the cave. So that now, when it rains, water goes through the dirt, hits the sandstone, and is spread out over the top of the cave and doesn't come down into the cave unless it's through a spot like where the water's coming through the ceiling. Imagine that being a gutter right there. Everybody seen that as we walk past it? The water's being funneled in that one direction and making its way down about another 200 feet to the water table. We're in the living room of the cave here, good and dry. From here back, that protective layer got eroded away over time. And you've just got limestone and dirt. Water comes in really slow. It dissolves the limestone, and you've got a little droplet of water hanging on the ceiling, and it's really full of calcium. All right? It dries out in this open air, leaves a ring of calcium on the ceiling. That process happens hundreds of thousands of times. You get a little icicle-looking thing up there. That turns into a stalactite. All right? If the droplet falls to the ground, it's a stalagmite. The process starts in reverse. If the two come together, if we were way out west, they would call them mighty tighties. All right? We're not out west, folks. So a lot of people around here call them pillars. But that's what I sleep on at night, so I tend to call them columns, like what's out on the front porch. Okay? The Frozen Niagara back there that we walked by, that's flowstone. Instead of droplets of water falling from the ceiling, they flowed down the side of the cave wall. And the reason it's called Frozen Niagara was back in the 1920s when they found it, most of the people coming here were from Michigan and New York and places like that. They were familiar with Niagara Falls. So they named this the Frozen Niagara because people would want to come see something that they were familiar with. The green stuff, some of y'all saw the green stuff like that right back there. That's where I'm not doing my job good enough. That's moss and algae growing in the cave.
Going down, it's better down there. It's really pretty.
Yeah.
Droplets of water on the end of them, they're reforming. Back in the 1920s, when this was privately owned, somebody would have said, I want a souvenir. I'll give you, 50 cents or $1 for that rock. Well, if you were making 10 cents a day, you took a hammer and broke that rock off and sold it to them. They thought they would grow right back. They didn't know it took hundreds of years, to get a cubic inch, maybe 200 years. 200 years for a big puffy marshmallow size, a piece of rock. You see this row right here? That will eventually turn into that if the conditions stay the same. Here's a piece of bacon hanging on the ceiling. Some little soda straws around. A saber-toothed tiger's tooth. The Christmas tree. A wedding cake. Some stone tablets.